I never thought that at 58 years old I'd be standing in my son's living room listening to him call me a useless parasite. Noah's words were sharp as knives cutting through all the years I risked my life to save him, sacrificing everything so he could have a decent life. That night, under the dim light of their house on the outskirts of Asheville, North Carolina, I felt my heart tighten in my chest. I just wanted to tell them I had quit my job so I could take care of the family when my daughter-in-law gave birth. But Noah didn't give me a chance, and Grace, my daughter-in-law, just gave me a scornful smile and cut me off. "How can you live without a pension these days, Mom?" Lillian, Grace's mother, sitting on the armchair, scanned me with a cold, contemptuous glare. "Ellie, you should be realistic," she said, her voice deep but dripping with sarcasm. "At your age, you can't just sit around expecting them to support you." I turned to Noah, but he just stayed silent, saying nothing. He had always thought I was useless, incapable of giving him a decent life. He only saw what I couldn't give him. Grace's family was well known. They always looked down on poor people like us. Grace, with her silky blonde hair and a voice that was sweet but sharp, always looked at me like I was inferior. Her parents, especially Lillian, never hid their contempt for me. "I always said she was just a maid," Lillian once said at a family party, thinking I couldn't hear her. "What a shame Noah had to grow up with a mother like that, and how lucky he is to have married my daughter." I tried to stay calm, taking a deep breath. "I quit my job because I wanted to spend more time with you," I said, my voice trembling but trying to be firm. "Grace, you're about to give birth. I thought I could help take care of you after the delivery or watch the baby when you need to rest." I thought those words would soften them, remind them that I was still his mother, that I wanted to contribute, but Grace just let out a mocking laugh, her gaze as cold as ice. "Postpartum care? What do you know about that? My mother already hired a professional nurse. You would only complicate things." Lillian chimed in, her voice syrupy but full of thorns. "Ellie, taking care of a newborn is a science. You need someone trained, not someone who only knows how to clean houses." The two of them, as if they had rehearsed it, teamed up to humiliate me. I felt my face burn, not from shame, but from the anger rising inside me. I looked at Noah, hoping he would say something, anything, to defend me, but he just sat there scrolling through his phone as if I didn't exist. "Noah," I called out, my voice hoarse, "do you really think I'm a burden?" He looked up, his eyes red from the pressure but with no trace of remorse. "Mom, we need money. The expenses are going to double when Grace gives birth. This isn't a good time for you to stop working. You're still strong. Why don't you keep working?" I froze. After everything I had done, saving him from death, raising him, buying him this house with my sweat and tears, he wanted me to go back to mopping floors to support his family. I felt a knot in my chest, like someone was squeezing my heart. "Noah," I said slowly, "I bought this house for you. I paid every single cent with money from overtime from sleepless nights. Don't you remember?" Grace tossed her hair back, jumping in before Noah could answer. "You bought the house. That's why we let you stay here. Otherwise, we would have kicked you out a long time ago, right? To some miserable apartment." Lillian nodded as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. I looked at Noah, his eyes still glued to his phone. "Noah," I said, my voice strangely calm. "Do you really want me to go work cleaning jobs to keep paying for your life while you call me a parasite?" He looked up, frowning as if I were bothering him. "Mom, don't complicate things. We just need you to help. You always said you wanted to be independent, right? This is how you can support yourself." I laughed bitterly, my laughter echoing in the silent room. "Independent?" I repeated, my voice shaking with anger. "You think I've never been independent? I raised you alone, Noah. I risked my life to save you from those stray dogs. I gave up my husband, my home, everything just so you could live. And now you talk to me about independence." Noah shrugged as if my words were just air. "Mom, that was your choice. I didn't ask you to do those things. If you don't want to help, just say so. But don't expect us to take care of you. If you have nothing, you get nothing." That word "nothing" stabbed my heart like a dagger. I looked at Grace, I looked at Lillian, I looked at Noah, and I realized a painful truth. They never considered me family. I was just a tool, a source of money. someone to push around. The rage inside me exploded, but I forced myself to stay calm. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't beg. I had given them too much, and it was time to take back my dignity. I turned around, walked to the door, and grabbed the small suitcase I had brought. "Ellie, where are you going?" Lillian shouted, feigning concern. "You can't just leave like this. Noah is your son." I stopped, turned back, and looked her straight in the eye. "My son," I said, my voice cold as ice. "I saved Noah from death. I raised him with my entire life. But if he thinks I'm a burden, then from now on I am no longer his mother." Noah shot up, his face red. "Mom, what are you doing? You can't leave. You owe me. You owe us." I looked at him. The boy I once held in my arms, the one I sang lullabies to every night, and I felt a void where love used to be. "What do I owe you?" I asked, my voice low but sharp. "I paid that debt with blood and tears, Noah, but you're mistaken. I don't owe you anything." I opened the door, walked out, and didn't look back. The cold Asheville winter wind was blowing, but I didn't feel it. A flame was burning inside me, the flame of resentment, of an awakening. I left Noah's house that night, dragging my suitcase behind me. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I just knew I had to get away from that place, the one I once thought was my home. I stopped at a small roadside motel, the neon lights flickering dimly. In the cramped room, I sat on the edge of the bed, opened my suitcase, and pulled out an old photo. Noah, 5 years old, smiling brightly next to me at the city park. That smile was just a memory now, and I wondered what had made everything change. The next morning, I called Ava, a friend who worked at an art gallery in downtown Asheville. I needed a place to stay temporarily, a place to gather my thoughts. Ava didn't ask many questions. She just said, "Ellie, come on over. I have a small apartment on the second floor of the gallery. You can stay as long as you need." I thanked her, packed my things, and moved into Ava's apartment. It was simple, with a small bed, an old wooden table, and a window overlooking the busy street. I placed the photo of Noah on the table, but every time I looked at it, I saw his contemptuous gaze from the night before. That day, Ava invited me down to the gallery to see a new painting exhibition. I went with her not out of interest, but because I needed to do something to keep from sinking into my thoughts. The paintings on the walls were full of color, but I didn't really pay attention to them. Then Ava took me to a corner of the main gallery hall where there was a small painting of a woman standing in the middle of a field, her gaze lost in the distance. "What do you think?" Ava asked. I looked at the painting, and suddenly I remembered the early days after adopting Noah, when I was also alone, not knowing what the future held. I started telling Ava about Noah, not the story from the other night, but from the distant days when he was little. 30 years ago, after I saved Noah from the stray dog, I took him to the hospital. The doctor said he needed several surgeries to heal his wounds and recover. I didn't have any money, but I didn't give up. I worked at a tailor shop during the day, cleaned offices at night, and sold homemade cookies at the market on weekends. Every penny I earned went to pay the hospital bills. Noah was hospitalized for 3 months, and I visited him every day, bringing him old storybooks I bought at the flea market. I would read to him even though he was too little to understand, just so he knew I was there. When Noah got out of the hospital, I rented a small apartment on the outskirts of Asheville. It had only one room with peeling walls and a creaky wooden floor. I placed an old crib for Noah next to my bed. The nights he had a fever, I would stay awake wiping him down with damp cloths, singing him the lullabies my mother used to sing to me. I never told Noah about those days. I didn't want him to feel like a burden. But I clearly remember every moment, every night sitting at the kitchen table, counting every cent to buy milk, every time I refused to buy new clothes for myself to save up for his new shoes. Noah grew up, and I tried to give him a normal life. I enrolled him in a public school near our home. Every morning I woke up early to make him a sandwich to take, even though my hands ached from working all night. He loved to draw, so I bought him a cheap box of colored pencils. His drawings houses trees and the image of a woman he called Mom. I taped them all over the wall. I felt proud every time he showed off his good grades at school, every time the teachers praised him for being smart. I thought that despite the difficulties, I had given him a home. When Noah was 12, I started working for Clara, a wealthy woman who owned a furniture company in Asheville. Clara treated me like a friend, not an employee. She taught me about art, invited me to exhibitions, and sometimes gave me books about painting. I worked for Clara for 18 years, from when Noah started middle school until he graduated from college. Every month I sent Noah money even after he had moved out to live with Grace. I never told him I worked overtime to pay his college tuition, that I turned down Clara's invitation to study painting to save money for him. When Noah married Grace, I gave them the house on the outskirts of Asheville. I had spent 10 years saving to buy it, working tirelessly, even neglecting my own health. The day they moved in, Grace hugged me and said, "You are a wonderful mother, Ellie." Noah also took my hand and promised, "One day I will take care of you, Mom." I believed them. I thought it was the reward for my years of sacrifice. But now, sitting in Ava's apartment, looking at Noah's photo, I realized those promises were just empty words. On the third day in the apartment, I received a message from Noah. "Mom, we need to talk. You can't just leave like this. I'm sorry for what I said." I looked at the message, my hands trembling. A part of me wanted to call him back. I wanted to believe that he was truly sorry. But then I remembered his contemptuous look. I remembered how Grace and Lillian had humiliated me. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked to the nearby grocery store and bought a lottery ticket like a subconscious habit. I didn't think much of it. I just wanted to do something to forget the pain. That night I was watching the news on the apartment's TV. The anchor read the lottery results, and I distractedly checked the ticket in my pocket. The first number matched then, the second, the third. My heart started beating faster. When the last number matched, I could barely breathe. $9 million. I checked it again this time on my phone, and then I called the lottery center to confirm. The person on the other end of the line said with a cheerful voice, "Congratulations, Mrs. Harper. You are the grand prize winner." I just sat there, the lottery ticket in my hand, not knowing what to do. I thought that if nothing had happened, I would have given the money to Noah the day Grace gave birth. I imagined the scene, him hugging me, thanking me, calling me Mom, with all his love. But after the other night, after the insults, I wasn't so sure anymore. I put the lottery ticket in a wooden box on the table next to Noah's photo. I didn't tell anyone, not even Ava. I needed time to think. A few days later, Ava invited me to lunch at a small cafe near the gallery. While we were chatting, Lillian suddenly appeared. She walked in wearing an expensive fur coat, a fake smile on her lips. "Ellie, I heard you were here," she said, sitting down uninvited. "Noah is very sad. You can't be angry with him forever. He's your son, and he needs you." I looked at her, not responding. Lillian continued, her voice syrupy but calculating. "I know you're angry about what was said, but you have to understand Noah and Grace are under pressure. They're going to have a baby. If you don't help, it will be very difficult for them. I heard there's a job at the nursing home. They pay pretty well. You should give it a try." I gripped my coffee cup, trying to stay calm. "Lillian," I said slowly, "I gave Noah everything. A home, a life, everything I had. He thinks I'm a burden, so I have nothing left to give." She frowned as if I had just said something absurd. "Ellie, you can't abandon your son. You're his mother. You have a responsibility." I stood up. I took out my wallet to pay for the coffee. "Responsibility," I said, looking her straight in the eye. "I paid that debt a long time ago, but if Noah wants me to come back, let him come and tell me himself. You are a nobody here." I walked out of the cafe, not waiting for her response. I had thought I could keep the $9 million a secret. Keep it in the wooden box next to Noah's photo, waiting for a day when my anger subsided. Maybe then I would give it to my son. But after the encounter with Lillian at the cafe, her words were like a flame that burned away the little hope I had left. I couldn't keep living in the illusion that Noah would change, that he would see me as a mother. That night in Ava's small apartment, I opened the wooden box, looked at the lottery ticket, and made a decision. I would not let anyone look down on me anymore. The next morning I called a lawyer named Daniel, recommended by Ava. Daniel had a small office in downtown Asheville with wooden shelves full of legal documents. I walked in carrying the lottery ticket and the confirmation papers from the lottery center. "Mrs. Harper," Daniel said, adjusting his glasses. "Congratulations. This is a considerable sum, but but you need to protect it. Have you told anyone?" I shook my head. "No one knows yet. I want to keep it safe, and I need you to help me organize everything." Daniel nodded, starting to take notes. He suggested creating a trust to protect the assets, opening separate bank accounts, and making sure no one could dispute ownership of the money. I agreed and signed all the documents he presented. When I left the office, I felt relieved, as if for the first time I was in control of my life. A few days later, I started looking for a place to start over. I didn't want to live in Ava's apartment forever, even though she always welcomed me with open arms. I checked real estate listings on my phone and stopped at a luxury residence on the outskirts of Asheville. It had glass walls with a view of the Blue Ridge Mountains, a large garden, and a living room big enough to hang the paintings I dreamed of creating. It cost $2 million, but I knew I could afford it. I called the real estate agent and made an appointment for the weekend. That weekend, I went to see the residence. The agent was a young woman named Hannah with a soft voice and a kind smile. She guided me through each room, pointing out details like the stone fireplace and oak floors. I was standing in the living room, imagining an easel near the window, when a sharp voice echoed from the entrance. "Ellie Harper, what are you doing here?" I turned and saw Sophie Lillian's niece standing there, her eyes full of contempt. Sophie worked for the real estate agency and clearly didn't expect to find me. "Sophie," I said, keeping my voice calm, "I came to see the house. Is there a problem?" She let out a mocking laugh, crossing her arms. "See the house? You think you have the money to buy this place? You're just a maid, Ellie. Don't waste Hannah's time." The people around and the company employees started turning and whispering. Hannah seemed uncomfortable trying to intervene. "Sophie, I'm working with Mrs. Harper. Everything is in order." But Sophie didn't stop. "In order? She doesn't even have $1,000 in her pocket? She just came here to pretend like those people who like to show off. Don't you see?" I clenched my fists, the anger rising. I had endured enough insults from Noah's family, from Lillian, and now from Sophie. I looked at her directly, my voice as cold as ice. "Sophie, you don't know anything about me. I came here to buy the house, and I'm going to do it today." She burst out laughing, her voice mocking. "Buy the house with what savings from cleaning floors. Please, Ellie, go back to your poverty." Hannah tried to calm the situation. "Sophie, that's enough. Mrs. Harper has documents of financial solvency." But Sophie snatched the folder from Hannah's hands, flipping through it arrogantly. $9 million. This is a joke. It must be fake. I know her well. She's just a maid living off Noah. There's no way she has real money." The crowd started to murmur. Some people nodded as if they agreed with Sophie. I didn't argue. I took out my phone, opened my banking app, and showed the balance to the entire room. $9 million. There were audible gasps. Sophie's face went pale. Her lips trembled. "Where did you get that money?" she stammered. "I won the lottery," I said, my voice firm. "And I don't need you to believe me or not. Hannah, I want to sign the contract for this residence right now." Hannah nodded quickly, preparing the papers, her eyes shining with excitement. Sophie stood there rigid, as if she had just been slapped. A middle-aged man the company manager approached, looking at Sophie with a frown. "You have insulted a client, Sophie. Get out of here right now." Sophie tried to argue, "But she's just—" The manager cut her off. "Enough, you're suspended. We will consider your termination." I didn't look at Sophie as she left, shooting me a venomous glare. I signed the contract, transferred the $2 million, and received the keys to the residence. Hannah hugged me, whispering, "You are amazing, Mrs. Harper. Thank you for trusting me." I smiled, but inside, the anger still lingered. Sophie was just a small part of the people who had looked down on me, and I knew the story wasn't over. A few days later, I moved into the residence. I bought a new easel, a set of paints, and began to paint. The first brushstrokes were clumsy, but I was in no hurry. I wanted to find myself again, just as Clara had encouraged me to do. But then one afternoon, Noah showed up at my front gate. I saw him through the security camera, standing there, hands in his pockets, a tired look on his face. I didn't open the gate. Instead, I received a message from him. "Mom, I heard you won the lottery. Why didn't you tell me? We need to talk." I looked at the message, my fingers sliding across the screen. I replied, "Noah, if you want to talk, come as a son, not as someone asking for money." He didn't respond, but that night, Grace called. Her voice was syrupy, completely different from the other night. "Mom, Noah is very sorry. We want to invite you to dinner at our house. You are family and we need you." I held the phone, listening to Grace's voice, and I realized one thing. They weren't sorry for insulting me. They were sorry for losing the chance to get their hands on the $9 million. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I went out into the garden. I stood under the sunset looking at the Blue Ridge Mountains in the distance. I had saved Noah. I had raised him with my entire life, but now he only saw me as a bank. I replied to Grace, "I'll come to dinner, but don't expect anything from me." That night, I got ready to go to Noah's house. I put on a simple dress, no jewelry, no ostentation. I wanted to face them, not to reconcile, but to make it clear. I was no longer the mother they could push around. When I arrived, Noah opened the door, forcing a smile. "Mom, come in. I'm sorry for what I said." Grace stood behind him, her hand on her pregnant belly, a calculating look in her eyes. Lillian was sitting at the table with her usual fake smile. "Ellie, what a joy to have you back," she said, her voice overly sweet. Dinner began, but no one mentioned the other night. Instead, Grace asked about the residence. "I heard you bought a very nice house, Ellie. Is it true?" I nodded, taking a sip of water. "Yes. I won the lottery, so I thought it was time to live for myself." Noah coughed, looking at me. "You won the lottery? How much was it, Mom?" I looked him straight in the eye, my voice slow. $9 million, but don't worry, I don't plan on spending it all on myself." There was a silence. Grace smiled, but I saw how she clutched her napkin. Lillian intervened. $9 million. Ellie, what do you plan to do with that money? Noah and Grace are having a baby. You should think about your grandchild's future." I put down my silverware, looking at each of them. "I had thought about giving that money to Noah when the baby was born, but after what you said, calling me a burden, telling me to go clean a nursing home, I'm not sure you deserve it." Noah slammed his hand on the table, his face red. "Mom, you can't do that. I'm your son. You can't keep that money." Grace's voice trembled as she jumped in. "Ellie, you can't be so selfish. We are family." Lillian stood up, pointing at me. "You're heartless, Ellie. Who do you think you are, hoarding that money when Noah needs it?" I stood up, looking at them, my voice as cold as ice. "Family. You called me a parasite. You said I didn't know how to take care of children. He was just a child with no father or mother that I picked up off the street. He should be grateful for that, but after everything he chose to betray me. I don't owe you anything." Noah shouted, "Mom, you have no right. It's family money." I walked to the door, pausing for a second. "Family money," I said, turning to look at him. "I won the lottery, Noah, not you. And from now on, we are not mother and son. Remember that." I left the house that had cost me so much to get my heart beating fast, but not from pain. For the first time, I felt free. But as I was driving back to my residence, a message came through from Sophie. "You think you got away with it. You'll pay for making me lose my job." Her threat didn't scare me, but it was a reminder. The people who had looked down on me wouldn't leave me alone easily. I knew I had to act not just to protect the $9 million, but also to protect the dignity I had lost for so long. That night, I sat in the huge living room of the residence, the light from the stone fireplace reflecting on the glass wall, and I made a decision. I wouldn't run anymore. I would face them, and this time I would stand my ground. The next morning, I called Daniel, my lawyer, again. "Daniel," I said, my voice firm, "I need you to help me protect my assets. Someone is threatening me, and I want to make sure no one can touch this money." Daniel agreed to meet with me immediately. In his office, he reviewed Sophie's message, frowning. "Mrs. Harper, this could be considered harassment. I suggest you save all evidence like messages, emails, anything. We can file for a restraining order if necessary." I nodded, giving him a copy of the message. Daniel continued. "I also advise you to make the lottery win public, but in a controlled way. If you keep it a secret, people like Sophie will spread rumors. If you go public, it will be harder for them to defame you." I thought about it for a moment, and then agreed. Do whatever is necessary, I said. I want to put an end to this. Daniel contacted a friend who worked at the local Asheville newspaper and arranged a brief interview. I didn't want to show off, but I understood Daniel's point. Making the truth public would help me control the narrative. The next day, a reporter named Mia came to the residence. She was young, enthusiastic, and brought a small recorder. "Mrs. Harper," Mia began, "people in Asheville are curious about you, a normal woman who suddenly wins $9 million. How does it feel?" I smiled, taking a sip of tea. "I don't feel special. I'm just a mother who has worked her whole life, and this money is an opportunity to live for myself." Mia nodded, taking notes. "There are rumors that you plan to keep all the money without sharing it with your family. Do you want to say anything about that?" I looked at her directly. I intended to share this money with my son and daughter-in-law, but when I decided to quit my job, I told them I wanted to help because my daughter-in-law was about to give birth. I expected them to be happy and thank me. Instead, they demanded I go back to work or find a new job to earn money. They didn't want to thank me for taking care of them. I thought that if they didn't value me, they didn't deserve this money. The interview was published over the weekend, accompanied by a photo of me standing in the garden of the residence holding a paintbrush. The headline was, "Asheville Mother Wins Grand Prize, A Journey from Sacrifice to Freedom." The article spread quickly. Ava called, excited. "Ellie, you're famous. The whole town is talking about you." But not everyone supported me. One morning, I received an anonymous email. "You are selfish for keeping the money while your son struggles to live. You will pay the consequences." I sent the email to Daniel, and he immediately sent a legal warning to the email company requesting to trace the origin. "We'll find out who's behind this," Daniel said, "but you must be careful." In the midst of the controversy, I decided to pursue the passion Clara had awakened in me: painting. I had bought a residence, but I wanted more. I needed a space to create. I found a small art gallery for sale in the Killarney district of downtown Asheville for $1.5 million. It had white walls, natural light, and an open space ideal for exhibiting paintings. I contacted the owner, an older man named George, and set up a meeting. George guided me through the gallery, pointing out the remaining paintings on the walls. "It used to be the heart of the art community here," he said with a sad voice, "but I'm old. I don't have the strength to manage it anymore." I nodded. "I want to buy it, and I want to turn it into a place that inspires people." George smiled and agreed to sell it for $1.4 million after a brief negotiation. I transferred the money, immediately signed the contract, and received the keys. A few days later, I started renovating the gallery. I hired a team to repaint the walls, install new lights, and create a small area for children's painting classes. Ava helped me contact local artists, inviting them to exhibit their work. I also started painting several hours a day to prepare for the first exhibition. I painted a large picture inspired by the one I saw in Ava's gallery. A woman standing in the middle of a field, her gaze firm. I called it Freedom. The first exhibition was planned for the end of the month. I sent invitations to the Asheville art community, posted announcements on social media, and even paid for a small ad in the newspaper. On the opening night, the gallery was bright with lights and full of people. Ava was by my side in an elegant blue dress, whispering, "Ellie, you did it. Look, everyone loves this place." I smiled, but my smile faded when I saw Lillian walk in, accompanied by a group of elegantly dressed women. They glided through the crowd, laughing and talking loudly, as if they wanted to attract all the attention. Lillian approached me with a fake smile. "Ellie, I didn't expect you to achieve this. A gallery. Impressive for someone who was a maid." The people around turned. Some whispered. I kept my voice calm. "Lillian, I'm not a maid anymore. This is my dream, and I'm living it." She let out a mocking laugh. "Dream? You think a few paintings and lottery money make you an artist? You're still Ellie Harper, the one who cleaned floors for Noah." Her friends laughed under their breath. A woman with large sunglasses chimed in. "I heard you kept all the money without giving a cent to your son. What a shame." I clenched my hands, but I didn't let them see my hesitation. I turned to Ava. "Ava, can you invite everyone to see the main painting?" Ava nodded, guiding the crowd towards Freedom hanging in the center of the gallery. I stepped forward, my voice clear and strong. "Thank you all for coming. This painting is my story. I sacrificed everything for my son, but when I needed respect, I only received contempt. The $9 million is not what defines me. It only gave me the opportunity to be true to myself." The crowd applauded, but Lillian intervened, her voice sharp. "Be true, you're just selfish, abandoning Noah when he needed you most." I looked at her directly. "Abandon, is that what you call family?" Lillian was speechless. Her friends were silent. A man in the crowd spoke up. "Mrs. Harper is right. You don't treat family like that." The crowd nodded, and Lillian's face went pale. She turned and stormed out, taking her friends with her. After the exhibition, I sold 5 paintings, including Freedom, for a total of $20,000. I donated that money to a charity that supports orphaned children in Asheville as a way to close the past, but the problems didn't end. A few days later, Noah arrived at the residence, this time not alone. Grace was with him. Her pregnant belly was large now, and Lillian stood behind them with her sharp gaze. They knocked, and I opened the door, not inviting them in. "Ellie," Grace said with false sweetness, "we want to apologize. Noah was wrong to say those things. Let's start over." Noah nodded, avoiding my gaze. "Mom, I know I was wrong, but we're going to have a baby." "You can't turn your back on your grandson, can you?" Lillian intervened. "You have $9 million, Ellie. You don't need all of it. Think about the family's future." I looked at them one by one, and I realized they didn't come for affection. They came for money. I closed the door without saying a word, but Noah pounded on the door, shouting, "Mom, you can't do this. I won't let you keep all that money." I called Daniel immediately. "Daniel, I need a restraining order. Noah and his family are still harassing me." Daniel agreed, starting to prepare the documents. While I waited, I got a call from Ava. "Ellie, you have to see social media. Noah is posting things about you." I opened my phone and saw Noah's post in an Asheville community group. "My mother won $9 million but abandoned us, me and my wife, when we needed her most. She lives in a mansion while we struggle for our unborn child." The post had hundreds of comments. Some agreed with Noah, calling me a heartless mother. I didn't respond to the post. Instead, I called Ava. "Ava, can you help me organize another exhibition? This time, I want to tell the real story." Ava agreed, and we started to prepare. I painted 3 more canvases each, telling a part of my story. The first depicted me chasing away the stray dog to save Noah. The second showed me sitting at the kitchen table, counting every cent. And the third showed me standing in front of the residence, my gaze firm. I called the trilogy The Journey. The night of the second exhibition, the gallery was even more crowded than before. I stood in front of the crowd and told my story. From the day I saved Noah to the night he called me a burden. I didn't cry. I didn't ask for pity. I just told the truth. When I finished, the crowd applauded, and an older woman came up and hugged me. "You are an inspiration, Mrs. Harper. Don't let them hurt you." But when I looked towards the door, I saw Noah standing there, his expression dark. He didn't come in, just turned and left, and I wondered what would he do to get revenge on me. The next day, I was in the gallery, the soft light illuminating the Journey trilogy. The applause from the previous night was still echoing in my ears. The image of Noah at the door with that dark look wouldn't leave my mind. I knew he hadn't come to reconcile, but to continue the war I was trying to end. But this time, I wasn't afraid. That night, I sat in my home studio. I placed a new canvas on the easel and began to paint. The first strokes were blue, like the Asheville sky, like the hope I was searching for. The next morning, Ava came to the residence with a stack of letters from people who attended the exhibition. "Ellie, you have to read these," she said, her eyes shining. I opened each letter, reading words of encouragement from strangers. A young woman wrote, "You inspire me to be true to myself." An older man shared, "I lost contact with my son, but your story made me want to try talking to him again." Those letters, like pieces of a puzzle, helped me see that my story wasn't just about pain, but also about strength. I decided to turn the gallery not just into a place to exhibit art, but into a space for people to share dreams and heal. I started organizing free painting classes for children at the gallery. Every Saturday, dozens of kids gathered laughing and painting colorful pictures. I taught them how to mix colors, how to let the brush tell its own story. A girl named Lily, only 8 years old, painted a picture of her mother who had passed away the year before. "Mrs. Ellie," Lily said with bright eyes, "I painted my mom so I won't forget her." I hugged her, feeling my heart warm. Moments like that reminded me that I could bring joy to others, not with money, but with compassion. While the gallery thrived, I received news from Daniel. "Mrs. Harper, we sent a legal warning to Noah for his social media post. He has deleted it, but I advise you to keep a close watch. There are signs he is trying to spread rumors." I nodded over the phone, thanked Daniel, and checked social media. An anonymous account had posted in the Asheville community group. "Ellie Harper is not the hero she claims to be. She won the lottery but abandoned her son when he needed money to support his coming baby." The post had a few dozen comments, some defending me, but many criticizing. What a shame. A mother shouldn't be so selfish. I didn't respond. Instead, I sent the post to Daniel, asking him to investigate. A few days later, Ava invited me to an art workshop in Asheville, where local artists shared techniques and experiences. I brought a new painting, one of a field of sunflowers under the sun, titled Sunrise. At the workshop, I met another Clara, an older artist who had studied with my former boss, Clara. This Clara, the artist, took my hand, smiling. "Ellie, I heard about your gallery. Clara would have been so proud." We talked for hours, and Clara invited me to participate in a major art exhibition in Charlotte the following month. "You have talent," Clara said. "Don't let anyone make you doubt it." I accepted, feeling a spark inside me. For the first time, I believed I could become a real artist. But as I prepared for the exhibition in Charlotte, Noah reappeared this time through a letter sent to the gallery. "Mom," the letter read, "I know I was wrong. I don't want the money anymore. I just want you to forgive me. Please let's meet." I read the letter, clutching the paper. A part of me wanted to believe Noah. I wanted to see the little boy who used to draw next to me again. But then I remembered the anonymous post. I remembered his dark look outside the gallery. I didn't reply to the letter, but I kept it in a drawer as a reminder that I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. The exhibition in Charlotte was a turning point. I brought 5 paintings, including Sunrise and the Journey trilogy. On the opening night, the hall was packed from collectors to art students. I stood by my paintings answering questions from visitors. A collector named Margaret bought Sunrise for $15,000, saying it reminded her of her own journey of overcoming hardship. I sold 3 other paintings for a total of $35,000, donated half the money to the children's charity, and used the rest to expand the gallery. One morning, as the exhibition ended, Clara hugged me. "Ellie, you have found your light. Don't let it go out." Upon returning to Asheville, I felt more confident, but the problems resurfaced. One morning, I opened social media and saw a viral video. Noah sitting in a cafe, live streaming with tears rolling down his cheeks. "My mother, Ellie Harper, has abandoned me," he said, his voice breaking. "I just wanted her to love me, but she chose money and fame. I'm about to have a child, but she doesn't care." The video had thousands of views. The comments were filled with outrage. A mother like that doesn't deserve respect. Poor Noah. He just wanted a family. I called Daniel immediately. "Mrs. Harper," he said, "this is public defamation. We can demand he take down the video and seek damages." I agreed, but I wanted to do more. I didn't just want to protect myself, I wanted to tell the truth. I contacted Ava and we planned a live stream from the gallery. "Ellie, are you sure?" Ava asked. "It will be a big step." I nodded. I have nothing to hide. People deserve to know the truth. The night of the live stream, I sat in front of the camera in the gallery with the Journey trilogy hanging behind me. Ava handled the technical side, her look full of encouragement. I took a deep breath and began to speak. "Hello, everyone. I am Ellie Harper, the mother Noah calls heartless. I want to tell the real story. 30 years ago, I saved Noah from a stray dog that was attacking him on the streets of Asheville. I adopted him, even though I had to give up my marriage and everything I had. but when I needed respect, he called me a bird and told me to go work cleaning a nursing home. I paused, showing scanned copies of the adoption certificate and the college tuition receipts I paid for Noah on screen. I won $9 million, I continued, and I planned to share it with Noah, but after what he and his family did, insulting me, belittling me, I decided to live for myself. I didn't abandon Noah. I just chose not to let myself be walked all over anymore. I ended by inviting everyone to the gallery where I would be donating $10,000 to the children's charity. The live stream was explosive. Thousands of people watched it. The comments flooded in. "Ellie, you are an inspiration. Noah should be ashamed for defaming you." Some skeptics asked, "If you loved Noah, why did you cut off communication?" I replied directly, "Loving someone doesn't mean letting them take advantage of you. I gave Noah everything, but I also need to respect myself." Public opinion began to shift. Noah's video gradually lost views, and many people started to support me. A few days later, Daniel called. "Mrs. Harper, Noah has taken down the video and posted a public apology. We also have a temporary restraining order. He can no longer mention you on social media." I thanked Daniel, but I knew Noah wouldn't stop easily. Sure enough, a week later, I received another letter from him sent through Ava. "Mom," the letter said, "I don't want a war. I just want you to come back. I promise to change." I read the letter, but I didn't reply. Instead, I painted a new picture depicting myself standing on a hill, looking out over the valley. I called it Rebirth. The gallery was attracting more and more visitors. I started collaborating with schools, organizing painting workshops for low-income children. Lily, the little girl who had painted her mother, became a regular student. One day she gave me a painting of me standing next to my easel, smiling brightly. "Mrs. Ellie, I want to grow up and be strong like you," Lily said. I hugged her, feeling like I was building a new family, one not based on blood, but on respect and love. But just when I thought I could move on, Grace's message arrived like a stone thrown into the calm lake I had tried to build. "Noah had an accident. He's in the hospital. Please come see him." I was sitting in my studio, the rebirth painting still wet the light from the window, illuminating the green and yellow brushstrokes. My hands trembled as I held the phone reading the message over and over. A part of me wanted to run to the hospital. I wanted to believe that Noah needed me, that this wasn't another trick. But after everything, the insults, the defamatory posts, the fake letters, I couldn't trust so easily anymore. I called Ava and told her. "Ellie," Ava said cautiously, "you should verify it first. Noah has hurt you too much." I nodded even though she couldn't see me and decided not to go immediately. Instead, I contacted Daniel, my lawyer. "Daniel," I said over the phone, "I received a message from Grace saying Noah had an accident. Could you verify if it's true?" Daniel agreed, promising to contact the hospital and the Asheville police to confirm. While I waited, I returned to the painting, letting the brushstrokes guide my thoughts. I painted a small winding path on the hill, as if I myself were walking without looking back. A few hours later, Daniel called back. "Mrs. Harper, there is no record of an accident involving Noah. I checked with the hospital and the police. It seems to be a trick." I sighed, not surprised, but still feeling a pang in my heart. "Thank you," I said and hung up. I replied to Grace. "If Noah really needs me, send the hospital documents. I won't come for a lie." She didn't reply. I knew I had done the right thing, but the decision wasn't easy. Noah had been my whole world, the child I saved from the stray dogs, the son I raised with sweat and tears. But now I realized that love doesn't mean letting others take advantage of you. I stood up, left the studio, and walked into the garden. The rose bushes I planted were beginning to bloom, their red petals vibrant in the sun. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and felt a peace I had never known before. I had been fighting for too long, and it was time to live for myself. A few days later, I decided to sell the residence. It was beautiful, but too big, too lonely for someone like me. I wanted a simpler place, a place I could call home. I contacted Hannah, the agent who had sold me the residence, and asked her to find a small house on the outskirts of Asheville near a lake or river. Hannah quickly found a wooden cabin by Lake Biltmore for $500,000. It had a spacious porch, a small garden, and a cozy living room with a fireplace. I went to see it and immediately knew it was my place. I sold the residence for $2.3 million, keeping the profit, and bought the wooden cabin. On moving day, I brought my easel, my paint box, and an old armchair I loved. I hung the rebirth painting on the living room wall as a reminder of my journey. The gallery continued to thrive. I opened more painting classes for adults, inviting people with experiences similar to mine to share their stories through art. One afternoon, a woman named Sarah joined the class. She was my age with gray hair, a gentle but sad look in her eyes. After class, Sarah shared that she had sacrificed her life for her family, but her children didn't value her. "Ellie," she said, "your story made me want to try painting to find myself again." I took her hand, smiling. "It's never too late, Sarah. Start today." Sarah became my friend, and through her, I met other women who were also seeking to heal. We organized weekly meetings at the gallery, drinking tea, painting, and sharing dreams. As my life gradually stabilized, I received news from Daniel. "Mrs. Harper, we won the lawsuit against Noah. The court has ordered him to pay you $50,000 for defamation and has prohibited him from mentioning you on social media." I thanked Daniel, but I didn't accept the money. Instead, I asked for it to be transferred to the Orphaned Children's Charity. I didn't want anything from Noah, not money, not apologies. I just wanted freedom. A few months later, I heard that Grace had given birth to a baby girl. Ava told me that Grace and Noah were going through financial difficulties and had to sell the house I bought for them. I didn't reach out. I didn't ask. But one afternoon, as I was watering the flowers in my garden, a letter arrived. It had no return address, just a photo. A newborn baby girl, blonde with blue eyes, and a note. "This is your granddaughter, Ellie. Don't you want to meet her?" I looked at the photo. My heart skipped a beat, but I knew it was another trick. I put the photo in a drawer without responding. I had chosen my path, and I couldn't go back. A year later, I organized a large exhibition at the gallery inviting the entire Asheville community. I exhibited 10 new paintings each, telling a story of healing. The last one, Serenity, depicted a woman sitting by a lake, the sunlight shining on her gray hair, a faint smile on her lips. On the opening night, the gallery was packed. Laughter and conversation echoed everywhere. Lily, the little girl who had given me her painting, now 10 years old, ran up and hugged me. "Mrs. Ellie, I painted a new picture. It's you and me by the lake." I looked at the painting. My eyes welled up. "Lily, you are my gift," I said, hugging her tight. Halfway through the exhibition, Ava took me to a corner. "Ellie, someone wants to meet you." I looked where she pointed and saw an older man with gray hair standing next to Serenity. He introduced himself as Thomas, a writer who was writing a book about people who overcame adversity. "Mrs. Harper," Thomas said, "your story is a chapter I want to tell. Would you agree to share it?" I smiled and nodded. "If it helps someone find hope, I am willing." Thomas and I talked for hours, and through him, I realized that my story wasn't just about pain, but a journey of healing. I told him about Noah, but without resentment. "I saved him, I raised him, and I don't regret it," I said. "But I regret not protecting myself sooner. Kindness should not be paid for with self-destruction." Thomas took notes, his gaze full of understanding. "You are a strong woman, Ellie," he said. "This story will inspire many." A few weeks later, I heard from Ava. "Ellie, did you hear about Noah? He moved to Tennessee, works in a warehouse. Grace divorced him and has custody of the child." I nodded without asking for more details. I didn't want to know where Noah was or what he was doing. He was the past, and I had let him go. I went back to my garden and planted more sunflowers, those flowers that always seek the light. A few weeks later, I was sitting on my porch on a beautiful morning, savoring my coffee, watching the Biltmore Lake sparkle. I opened a letter from Thomas the writer. "Ellie, the chapter about you is the heart of the book," he wrote. "You have given hope to thousands of people." I left the letter on the table, smiling. Thomas's book sold tens of thousands of copies, and I received letters from all over. A woman in Ohio wrote that she had left her abusive husband after reading my story. A young man in Texas said he started studying painting because of me. Those letters didn't make me feel special, but they let me know that my story had meaning, not because of the $9 million, but because I dared to stand up. My gallery is now the center of Asheville's art community. Every Saturday, I teach painting classes for children, and on Thursdays, for adults. Sarah, the friend I met in painting class, now has her own exhibition, and we often sit down for tea laughing about the days we were afraid of change. Lily, now 11, still comes every week bringing her vibrant paintings. Last week, she gave me a drawing of me standing by the lake smiling. "Mrs. Ellie, I want to grow up and be strong like you," she said. I hugged her and said, "You are already strong. Lily, just hold on to that." I no longer have contact with Noah, Grace, or Lillian. Ava told me that Noah moved to Tennessee, works in a warehouse, and lives alone after Grace divorced him. She has custody of their daughter, and I have never met my granddaughter. Once I received a letter with a photo of a blonde girl and a note. "This is your granddaughter, Ellie. Don't you want to meet her?" I looked at the photo. I felt a pang in my heart, but I knew it was a trick. I put the photo in a drawer without responding. Noah and his family lost the house. I bought them. They lost each other, and they lost me. I don't take pleasure in that, but I no longer feel I have to fix their lives. The other day, I finished a new painting depicting a path leading to the sea with a brilliant red sunset. I called it Eternal Freedom. When I hung the painting in the gallery, I stood in silence, realizing how much had changed. I used to think my value was in being a mother, a caregiver. I dedicated my whole life to Noah, hoping my love would be enough. But love cannot be one-sided. I learned that dignity is something no one can take from you unless you let them, and I won't let them anymore. I went out to the garden and cut some sunflowers to put in a vase. As I placed the vase on the table, I opened an old letter from Clara, my late boss. "Ellie, you have a flame inside you. Don't let anyone put it out." I smiled, feeling that Clara was here proud that I had kept that flame burning. I don't regret saving Noah or loving him, but I regret letting my kindness become a burden, not setting boundaries sooner. That lesson that I deserve to live for myself has changed me forever. I sat on the porch looking at the lake and thought about the people who read my story. I hope they understand that whether at 58 or 68, it's never too late to start over. Our worth is not in the roles others impose on us, but in how we rise, how we choose our passion and live with authenticity. I took the last sip of coffee, set down the cup, and picked up my paintbrush. A new painting was waiting, and I knew it would speak of hope. But somewhere out there, is there someone else holding a brush ready to repaint their life just like I did?